What does one bad date tell us about how we think about sex and consent? Hey everyone, I'm Harris O'Malley from NerdLove.com. Normally, I don't do too many episodes about current events, especially as they happen. I usually save that for the blog. But recently on Twitter, I had a lot to say about the Aziz Ansari situation. And as it turns out, I've got a lot more to say. If you haven't been keeping up, on Sunday, the website babe.net released the story of a young woman named Grace, not her real name, who met Aziz Ansari at a party. That meeting turned into a flirtation, the flirtation turned into a date, and then that date got awkward, and then it got bad. I'm not going to recount the entire thing because honestly that would take too long, but the short version of it is that Aziz Ansari was very sexually aggressive with Grace, despite the number of times that she said she was uncomfortable with the pace that things were moving at, she was uncomfortable with the things that he was doing to her, and she really didn't want to be sexual with him, and could they please stop, could they please not do this? And he didn't. In fact, there were more than a few times where he said, yeah, sure, let's chill, right before going back to trying to get her to go down on him or trying to stick his fingers in her mouth. For real, what is that? What are you doing? Is that the Carolina fish hook or something? Dudes, seriously, do not take tips from porn. And during all of this, Grace is pushing his hand away, she's pushing him away, she's saying, don't force this, please don't force this, it'll make me hate you, and I don't want to hate you. And then he would say, well, it doesn't seem like you hate me, while still trying to make out with her. And as we go through her story of the night, we see there are times where she is pushing him away or moving away from him, and other times where she is actually giving in and doing things like going down on him. And now we have people who are trying to argue about whether or not this was technically assault, and quite frankly, I'm really not interested in trying to parse this. I really don't care about whether or not it meets the technical definition of assault, and I'm really not interested in arguing about, well, why didn't she get up and leave? Because A, it doesn't matter, and B, it doesn't fucking matter. There are a lot of reasons why a woman doesn't immediately get up and leave a bad situation. Eve Ewing has a great story about this on Twitter, I've shared that link in the show notes as well, and Aaron Sate, I hope I got your last name right, had a great post about this as well. And guys, if you've ever found yourself cornered by a coworker who really wants to talk with you about Bitcoin, or you've gone over to hang out with a friend and suddenly he is selling you on his timeshare or his new multi-level marketing investment scheme, then you know what it's like to be stuck in a situation where you can't just leave. More to the point though, I'm not really interested in having an argument about, well, why didn't she leave? Or why didn't she yell? Or why didn't she fight harder or hit him? Because I want to focus on something that's actually a little more important. At the end of the night, Grace leaves in an Uber crying, and she gets a text from Aziz saying, hey, I had a great time, I just dropped off my film, hope to get some great shots. And she writes back and tells him exactly how she feels about how everything went. And he writes back to her saying, oh, I'm so sorry, I thought everything was cool, clearly I misread things. He said much the same thing in an official statement later on, that he had engaged in sexual activity with her that, by all indications, was completely consensual. Hold up. What? If you're like me, this kind of shit leaps out at you because, holy Christ, Aziz, you wrote Modern Romance. You talk about this in your stand-up. You put yourself out there over and over again as one of the guys who gets this shit. We'll pause to appreciate the irony that I'm saying this, but let's get back to what he said, that by all indications, everything was fine. Strictly for argument's sake, let's take him at his word. Let us assume that he legitimately thought everything was cool. In a lot of ways, that's even more fucked up than if he was just trying to cover his ass. Because if we were to take a quick rundown of all the ways that Grace was telling him no, we have telling him, whoa, hey, let's chill. Moving his hand away. Moving her hand away. Getting up and moving across the room from him. Stop moving entirely. Telling him next time when he's asking her, hey, where do you want me to fuck you? Telling him that she didn't want to be forced because she didn't want to hate him. Saying, I don't want to do this. Getting up and moving again. And finally, calling a car and going the hell home. Apparently, every time she stopped moving, Ansari was all up on her and kissing her and groping her. This is some Pepe Le Pew shit, which is actually part of the problem. Grace, like a lot of people do in similar situations, was trying to wave him off and tell him no gently. Let's not forget, this is a guy that she liked, that she wanted to be on a date with, whose career she knew and admired, and a guy who puts himself out there as a safe ally for women. Really not surprising to me that she wasn't all get your damn hands off of me, because it's like she said, she didn't want to hate him. But not only did Ansari not seem to be hearing those no's, he didn't seem to be picking up on how incredibly uncomfortable she was. And every time he gave an indication that, okay, he gets it, he's gonna stop, he's back on her like a cartoon skunk on meth. And therein lies the problem, not just with Ansari, but with the culture in general. The lessons that men get taught about sex are profoundly fucked up. Like I said in my episode about enthusiastic consent, it's not about whether she gave a no directly or strongly enough. It's about the fact that there wasn't a yes. By which I mean an enthusiastic yes, not just giving in because she's been worn down or because it feels like that's the only way she's really going to get out of here and it's easier than just constantly fighting him. And that's important because we don't talk about that. We don't talk about what people will do when they feel like they have no other options, or when they've been ground down, or when they feel like they've been backed into a corner. We never talk about the way that people behave when they're under duress. The fact that she gave in, keywords there, gave in, not consented, doesn't mean that suddenly everything's fine and this is just a case of a bad date and regretful sex with someone who picked up some really weird foreplay along the line. It means that he bulldozed his way past all the ways that she was saying no, even when he was saying, cool, that's fine, let's just chill. And apparently, he didn't notice any of them. Honestly, this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, because we've all grown up in a culture that is constantly telling us, overtly and covertly, that consent ultimately doesn't matter. We grow up getting used to having our consent overridden when our parents say, hey, you have to go over there and give Aunt Martha a kiss or a hug, even though we don't want to. We grow up with no means no. So if you don't hear a no, and we are constantly exposed to stories and media that teach us that somebody else's consent is mostly an inconvenience. Those Pepe Le Pew cartoons that I mentioned earlier treat sexual assault as a joke. In 16 Candles, we watch one character give his passed out girlfriend to another guy like she's a party favor. American Pie teaches us that revenge porn is hilarious. Hell, even beloved romantic favorites like Gone with the Wind or The Notebook teach us that what women want is ultimately unimportant. And just as importantly, we're taught that guys just know, and then they should just go for it. How do you know when someone wants you to kiss them? You'll just know. Wondering if it's time to take this to the bedroom? Just go for it. Indiana Jones doesn't ask. James Bond sure as hell doesn't ask, even when she says no, over and over again. Even now, we still have people who think that asking, "Can I kiss you?" is a mood killer. Don't wait. Don't ask. Keep on going until you get to that prize at the bottom of the cereal box. Keep pushing until you get what you want. This is never more evident than by the sheer number of people who keep on saying that Grace was giving Ansari mixed signals. First of all, if you saw someone acting like this over, say, being handed a plate of vegetarian lasagna, you would know exactly what they're saying. They don't want it. Second of all, I'm not entirely sure how getting up and moving across the room is a mixed signal. But let's say that it is. Let's say that somehow Ansari was getting mixed signals from Grace. Let's say, sure, her not leaving is a mixed signal. So then, being unsure what she was thinking, he clearly decided to err on the side of what was going to get him a blowjob that night, which was not actually on the table. To get to this point, he had to decide repeatedly that every time she waved him off, the appropriate response was to push harder. This comes to a point where either he clearly doesn't see these signals, or he doesn't understand them when he sees them. And again, Aziz Ansari has put himself out there repeatedly as the guy who gets it. So how in pluperfect hell is he missing this? Honestly, I can't tell you. I can certainly speculate. It seems clear to me, at least, that he thought that sex was a foregone conclusion, and that's a mistake in and of itself. Even if she were sending him text messages to get ready because they were gonna bang like a screen door in a hurricane, people can and do change their minds. They are allowed to do this. It's nice to be optimistic, but quite frankly, it's really easy to let dickful thinking get in the way and start coloring things into the way that you want them to be rather than they actually are. And because I know someone's gonna say it, no, going back to his place doesn't mean that she was saying she was up for sleeping with him. What was she thinking going home with him? I don't know. Maybe she was thinking she was going to have a fun time with him and maybe sleep with him, maybe not, depending on how she felt. The fact that a woman goes to a person's house does not mean that they have given up their right to consent. And hey, they'd both been drinking. Booze has its way of making you think that you're being more charming and seductive than you actually are. Maybe he missed those signs because he thought he was doing better. I've had times where I've had too much to drink and thought I was way more suave than I actually was, when in reality the woman I was flirting with was very patiently putting up with my drunk ass until my friends came to haul me away. And you know what? That's not an excuse. And neither was, well, there were mixed signals. Because there's a really easy way to find out what someone actually wants. And that's you use your words like a goddamn adult. Well, she went down on him. Why wouldn't he think she was cool with it? You know what could have cleared that up really quickly? If he'd asked, hey, are you okay? Do you want to do this? You seem like you're uncomfortable. Is this okay? Slow down? Okay, do you mean that you want to slow down tonight? Or that you want to wait for another time? And of course, it really doesn't help that he kept agreeing to just chill out, and hey, let's chill out with our clothes on this time, and then just start again. Hell, even if there aren't mixed signals, asking is still a good move. How's this, as you're unbuttoning somebody's blouse, is not going to kill the mood. Asking, would you like me to, is not going to turn most people off. But you want more than just silence or the lack of resistance. You want your partner's enthusiastic participation. You want them to be as into it as you are. And if they aren't, you can wait until they are. Nobody has ever missed out on sex by being willing to wait for a second or third date. But he didn't, and so here we are. And as fucked up as all of this is, if we take him at his word, if we accept that in his heart of hearts he legitimately thought everything was cool, then the takeaway should be that society is way more fucked up than most people understand. I want to be clear here. My point isn't, hey, look at this hypocrite. My point is, these lessons, this shit, is so deeply embedded in our culture and in our consciousness that even the people who should know better can still get it wrong. And that's why we need to be talking and teaching enthusiastic consent and making that the default standard, especially when people are still young. It's not just about wearing Time's Up pins or talking about rape culture, it's about breaking the cycle so that we don't have to keep doing this. If we want to make changes, deep, lasting, societal changes, then it's not just dealing with the adults, but we also need to focus on what we are teaching our children and teenagers too. Unlearning and uprooting all of this stuff is really important, but teaching the younger generations is how we don't have to keep undoing this in the first place. Thanks for checking out the latest video. Talking about all of this can be a really thorny subject. I've got a totally free worksheet about how to ask for consent without ruining the mood, so hit the link and get your copy. If you have a short dating question or a topic you'd like to hear me talk more about on here, hit me up, leave it in the comments below, or send it to me at doc@drnerdlove.com with "for YouTube" in the subject. And hey, if you want to know more about meeting amazing women, dating, improving your social skills, check out my books. I wrote them, you want to read them. Links to buy them are in the notes below, and if you do check them out, do me a huge favor. Leave a review on Amazon and Goodreads. That's a huge help. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to share this with all your friends. If you're really digging the series, if you're getting a lot out of this, you're finding that it's helping, then consider supporting the channel by becoming a patron at patreon.com/drnerdlove. Even $1 is a huge help. Meanwhile, follow me on Twitter at @drnerdlove. Join the Facebook page at facebook.com/drnerdlove. And as always, smash that logo to subscribe. Check out my other videos. And I will be back with you next time with more about love, sex, and dating. Later.